Ciao guys, welcome back to the ARTFUL Podcast. It's Matteo, your host. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Let's grow this art community together. And no further ado, let's go on with a new episode. Hi guys, welcome back to the ARTFUL Podcast. With me today we have KELECHI, calling from Nigeria, a great artist, which actually I had the pleasure to see your artwork. That's why I was really passionate to get in contact with you and managed to get this interview because I saw your artwork. I live in Berlin. So I saw your artwork in a recent exhibition in Berlin. I actually worked for a gallery which we had the pleasure to have your artworks for almost a month during an exhibition, and so I was feels really familiar with your work, and it's a beautiful paintings. And I would like to touch later on in the interview this interesting take that you have with your paintings about the traditional aspect of Nigerian and like the tribes, and in this like modern futuristic landscapes. And yeah, I would like to have your take on that. But yeah, welcome to the podcast. And before we start talking about your practice, let's if you want to introduce yourself for people that might not know you, your background, and if you did any study, and and then we can go for it.
Okay. My name is KELECHI NWANERI. I'm a Nigerian visual artist. I work and based in Lagos, Nigeria. Yeah, I'm from a small family here, and I did my university education at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, where I had a bachelor's degree in agriculture, not art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, basically that's a summary of my background in general.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm,
So
I'm from,
how did
from
you
the
get?
Igbo tribe. I'm
Sorry.
from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, because in Nigeria we're like three major tribes: the Hausa, the Igbo, and the Yoruba. Some from the Igbo tribe. So basically that's something.
So how did you get into art, and especially like you're becoming a professional artist and to do that as a job? Like how was that decision? How come?
Yeah. So somewhere in my third year in the university,
Mm.
I because my course is 5 years, takes 5 years to graduate from. So somewhere along my third year, I came to the realization that I wanted to do something that I couldn't be fired from. Yeah, that was the way the thought came to me.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't want to, do the normal graduation 9 to 5 routine and all. Yeah, so in my third day, I realized that, oh, there was this talent I had that was actually stolen, because I could draw right from while I was little. I think everybody in my house can draw. Yeah, so it was in my third year I decided to go back to these basics of drawing. Yeah, I decided consciously that, I think being an artist is something that I have in me,
Mm.
because I really drawing, designing, things that just has to do with visual creativity,
Mm.
not just visual creativity, things that have to do with creativity in general. It attracted me, be it music, art, animations. You get, so I realized that, okay, probably this could be a line of what I could, you know, do. And I went online somewhere around that time, and I saw hyper-realistic drawings, and that was the first time I was seeing things like that, drawings that looked so real life like. You get, so seeing those drawings kind of um, made my interest increase because I wanted to, that was my first challenge. I really wanted to see, oh, can I do this? And that's how I started trying to go to YouTube, study materials. How do they come to this? How do they come to that? And that was how
Mm.
my art started.
Mm. How long ago was this?
I think 2013.
Okay, so quite recent. That's fine. That's okay. I
Sure.
was saying it's a quite recent decision you um, that
Yeah,
you took.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite recent. Yeah.
Um, how was the first like year, couple of years before you start to get engaged like with like galleries and stuff like that? Um, how was that process? I usually for me it's quite interesting to understand like the beginning of an artist and the ups and downs that we all have as an artist.
Yeah. So, like I said, after I stumbled upon hyperrealistic drawings, yeah, I wanted to see how I could do that. And that alone was my first journey as an artist. Because in trying to understand how this could be done, you realize that you go through a whole new journey of learning, new things. You get. So, I think at some point it's I wasn't at the beginning, I wasn't so after galleries because I didn't really understand how the whole art thing worked. I just
Mm,
wanted to know how to, draw like that. You get.
yeah.
So at the point where drawing like that was becoming reachable, I started to think of, oh, how could I get professional entirely. And that was when I started to understand the importance of artists and how to, get to work with galleries. Then I realized that, oh, the kind of artists that I've been admiring and
Mm,
looking for inspiration, they all had very unique languages. You get it was these unique languages that stood them out, that made them interesting. Okay.
mm,
So personally, I came to a point where I felt that just drawing or knowing how to draw realistically wasn't my strongest means of expression. Uh,
mm,
I found it a bit constraining to just draw probably faces and make them look real. So I thought that I would enjoy more a medium where I could, tell stories with um with the um with the figures in my work, you get. And I wanted to um in summary paint out stories, you get more not just to have recreation of a portrait or something. Yeah. So that was when I stumbled, or that was when I started drawing these black figures with the motifs. Yeah, because
mm,
initially it was just hyper realism, drawing pictures, and you get. So when I thought about, I needed a unique means of expression, you get, so that I could start off properly as professional artist, I came to realizing that thanks to what's his name, Terry James Marshall. After Terry James Marshall is an American artist. Yeah, after I discovered his work and I read a few books, I
mm,
came to realization these black figures and the use of motifs. You get, so these motifs in my work are um, inspired by indigenous West African languages. You get Nigerian and Ghanaian.
mm,
Okay. So after coming up with this idea and trying to put it all up, I started to um, move towards galleries by creating a portfolio.
Yeah.
again, applying. Yeah. Well, funny enough, most of the galleries that I applied to after creating my portfolio didn't really respond to me. Rather, the ones that I really didn't apply to came, and that was how
Mm.
it started off. Prior to then, it's a bit difficult financially because you have to get materials, you have
Yeah.
to do moving about, you get, yeah. So that was what it was before my first exhibition. And after my first exhibition, I started to understand things more. Started to get things more.
Amazing. Um, the first obviously when you start and when you have to invest so much time and money in your artworks, and because materials, it's expensive. It's no and you need always new materials almost every week. Um but so yeah, let's talk about, as you mentioned a little bit before, let's talk about the connection between these two elements that you have in your paintings, which is those black figure with these like symbols, which are, as you said, a reference of like this West East
Images.
Nigerian, and so you said Nigerian
Yeah,
Ghana, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, with this all like landscape, which is obviously kind of like representing like this fantastic like planet, almost another world, and with these futuristic elements. I saw you paint some helmets and some technological aspect there is there. So yeah, if you wanna talk a little bit about that, and the why did you decide to get into this deeper connection between these two elements?
Yeah. So the can you still hear me properly?
Yeah, I can see you. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The main figures in my work are the black figures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have different series of
Mm.
painting, but the one you talk about is a series of painting where I try to represent man as a multiplanetary species. That
Mm.
is, represent man in a time where we have the technology and sophistication to visit other worlds as a means of tourism. What SpaceX and Blue Origin is trying to achieve. Yeah. So in this body of work, I try to use the figures that I would say represent where I come from. That's the black motifed figures. I try to put them in these mythical landscapes. Again, like
Mm.
you said, they are the painting which you saw in Berlin is is a traveler that's set in Mars. You get it's titled Sojourner.
Mm.
So the painting of it's an imaginary painting of a traveler that perhaps at a point in time when man can actually travel between planets, this is a traveler that took a photo at a particular landscape somewhere in Mars. You get, and
Mm.
I try to make the visual representation of this mystery world a bit similar to ours, but still distinct in some characteristics like the vibrant red.
Mm.
Okay.
I see. I see. It's yeah, it's such an interesting take between these two elements, like the old traditional aspect and this modern aspect of like the future and what we might gonna end up one day living in Mars or something. So yeah, it's super interesting, and they definitely like as well the colors, they catch your eyes, and they make you think, they make you question what you're looking at. um Talking about the symbol that you find on this black figure, do they have a particular meaning, which if you wanna talk about that, or it's a more like a reminder of this like language symbols that you wanna.
Yeah. So at first, when I started with these black figures, I wanted them to have symbols that speak of the character of the figure in the drawing. For example, if I paint someone and I put certain marks, I want those marks to talk about the nature of that person in the painting.
Mm,
If it's a wealthy person, if it's someone in love, if it's someone going through a relationship problem, if it's a wise person, uh, there are symbols and signs that represent these things, and I try to put them on the figure, just like how a tattoo would
mm,
or a scar. When you see a scar, it tells a memory of something. Okay, when you see some tattoos, they have meaning and they represent something. Yeah, so that was the idea. But along the way, I started to use the marks for aesthetic reasons, you
mm.
know, to not just to not just to say something about the figure, but to add beauty. Yeah,
Nice. Has this romantic aspect that um only kind of you can tell. It's super interesting way of using the symbols. And um so how do you make the composition? Because usually it's always kind of always different. It's never really the same kind of thing. Always different elements, always different position, landscape. How do you come up like with the final composition? Do you make some sketches, or you have some ideas and you just paint, um, or you take different photos and then you collage all together?
yeah. First of all, I when I want to paint about something, the first thing is the idea.
Mm,
So, for example, the sojourner, I wanted to paint someone. Yeah, I first after the idea, after I think of the idea, I make a sketch,
mm,
and I make this sketch from several references. That, for example, most of my figures, I photograph them first.
mm,
So if I need to have two, three figures in a painting, I like to take a photograph of these figures, how I want to have them. Then I sketch them out on a sketch pad to understand how I want to place them, their proportions. And it's at this point I decide how the landscape would be. Most times the landscape, I put them to suit the entirety of the painting in general. And the color is decided by, the kind of world or the kind of realm I'm trying to
mm,
explore that painting. In the series of work where I paint about flooded apartments, it's not, there are less landscapes and it's more about the interiors of buildings. Okay, so the background and choice of colors varies with the painting. But basically, I first sketch them out.
mm.
Then after sketching and I'm sure of the proportions and where I want this to be, I transfer the sketch idea onto the canvas. Then I start painting.
So it's a mix of like method that you use to make the composition.
Yeah.
Um and talking about the composition, talking about the whole painting in general, do you like to, because when I was looking at it, especially because I had the pleasure to see it from like in real life, um I feel like there is a story behind, there is something untold, and these elements, they seem random, but they might have a reason why they are there. So my question would be, do you want to explain to the audience what these paintings are about, the story that is behind, if there is a story behind, um, or do you prefer give it to the audience the chance to use their imagination?
Well, they can use their imagination is welcome, but I'll still explain.
Mm,
Yeah. So, most time, most times, each painting I make, I use to tell a story, either my story or a story of someone close to me.
mm,
Okay. Um, for the painting that was shown in Berlin, it was it's more of a general story where the entire body of works generally talks about how we could live as an extraterrestrial species. And I grouped the series or the body of work into three parts where I talk about the travelers. For example, when you go on vacation, when you land, you take photos,
mm.
you you're in a kind of happy mood, you want to photograph, you want to. So I that's one part of that series of work. So the one you saw is one of that, where a traveler has just arrived. You see the bag. There was a bag here. She's putting a
Yeah.
bag here. Yeah. So that then the other part of um, the other part of the paintings in this series talk about when you travel like this, there will be a need to quarantine. So I try to paint the figures in a place of quarantine
Mm,
with specific items that will tell that, oh, this is not Earth. For example, an astronaut helmet.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I
yeah,
see, I
don't
see.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
So the third part of this body of work is where I try to paint out vegetation that is not Earth-like. That's why you have the plants blue.
Mm,
Okay, that's why you have most of the plants cactus, like from the cactus family, because cactus grow on dry land, and from all we know, there's no water on Mars. Okay,
mm,
so yes, so these are the three categories of paintings in that body of work. Yeah,
I see.
and I think
Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah, it's super interesting the whole different aspect of, yeah, if we are going to travel, yeah, we might, yeah, we're gonna end up taking picture when we land, and we're gonna have luggage with us, and but all this, it's on this planet that, yeah, it's like a spaceship fantasy story, which is super curious, super funny. um so I don't want to take too much of your day. I want to end on this. I usually ask the artist at the end of the podcast, um, what do you suggest to, what's your advice to a younger artist that wants to start maybe, and or people that are already doing art? What would be your advice to them? And um, but especially if they're at the beginning, like what would be your advice for a young artist?
so. My advice to young or other artists, including myself, would be to not be in a rush, to take time to understand their their self, their craft, and their language. Okay,
Mm,
the internet now makes everything available to you in an instant, and so it might be difficult to retain originality when you see a lot of things that would influence what you
mm.
want to do. So it might be difficult to maintain originality, but it's important if we can pay attention to um, our own best way of expressing. No rush, just one day at a time. No comparisons, no competitions, just one day at a time. And with time, you'd find yourself in a place where your work speaks good of you.
Amazing, amazing words. I
Thank
love that. I love that. If you want to plug your Instagram or your website, if you have one, please go ahead.
Yeah, my Instagram is KC Art, KAECYART.
Amazing.
Then my website is KELECHINWANERI.com, but it's under reconstruction for now. But should be up in a few weeks. Yeah.
Perfect. I will put the links down in the description. So go ahead, guys, and follow your artist. It's really, really great. So please go follow and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. And thank you very much, Kelechi, to be part of the podcast. It was a pleasure to talk to you, especially after I saw your artworks in real life, and it was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you too.